Welcome to Confessions of a Wannabe It Girl. I'm your host, Marley Freygang, and I'm here to help you filter out all the bullshit and become the next It Girl. This podcast explores the reality of what it really takes to make it out there. As it turns out, it is way less Instagrammable than I thought it was going to be. I'm still very much a work in progress, but there's simply nothing else I'd rather be doing than chasing my dreams. So let's learn from my mistakes and work together to achieve our dreams with more confidence, clarity, and direction. Let's get after it. Welcome back to Confessions of a Wannabe It Girl. Today, I am joined by Paizley, the owner and founder of Peach Honey, a fellow New Mexico girly. And Peach Honey is a beautiful line of CBD pre-rolled joints. And I'm just so excited to get talking to you about your brand and a bunch of other things. So welcome to the show, Paizley.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun.
I'm so excited.
I love it.
Okay, so let's start with Peach Honey, obviously. Yeah. Why did you decide to start?
Yeah, so I think, it sort of became this like initial brainchild of like wanting to do something for myself and wanting to do something I was really passionate about. And so that sort of like pulls the thread of evolution of like what comes from that, and also taking into account life events. So originally it was concepted of this like CBD skincare line, and I'm running a million miles an hour with it. I'm trying to get an investor on board. I put in my 2 weeks with my office, and then COVID hits. Like literally the day I quit my job and was like, well, this is shocking news. Things are going to be different. And so I think like luckily I tried to remain open and see what came to me. And I was introduced to CBD flower. And I immediately knew like, oh, this is it. This is Peach Honey. This is like, I want to invoke the expression get gooey that comes with my brand has always been a part of it, even from the inception of skincare. Because the whole idea around it is like finding ways to find moments to fall in love with yourself. And that always feels like a really gooey experience for me, to just feel so authentically connected to me. That I'm just like all gooey and in love, and that's the most open and connected I can be with people. And as someone who has struggled with anxiety their whole life, to find like a release in something like CBD flower that wasn't a mask or a Band-Aid like alcohol or weed. Like, you can shut off the anxiety with those things, but it's going to come back tenfold.
Oh, worse with alcohol.
Exactly. Like the anxiety is real.
So real.
And so to find something that felt like it just rounded the edges a little bit, gave me that gooey feeling and allowed me to like take a moment to still connect with myself in the same way that I wanted to with like this lotion, like taking a shower and putting on lotion and just being like, oh my God, I just like feel gooey and I love my body. And so I just knew that was it. And so I leaned in really hard. I microdosed mushrooms for a month.
Beautiful.
Built my website in a day, like redesigned the packaging. I couldn't even build a website today if I tried. I don't know how I did that, but it's there and I'm thrilled about it. And thus Peach Honey was born. And it's been like a really fun ride since, but it really was born out of a desire to create some independence for myself and in a professional world, and find a way to connect with others and hopefully give them like a dose of gooiness in their life.
We love it. So it starts as the skincare, and then it transitions to flower, and then you get this transition of getting it all off the ground.
Yeah.
What does it look like? You've just made it. You're like so professional.
Oh my God, I wish. I literally thought like, oh, I've listened to all the How I Built This with Guy Raz.
Oh, beautiful.
I know business. Mm-hmm. And now I will be a successful business lady. I open the doors and I make all the money, and I can't wait to buy a Birkin in 2 years. Like that's literally a delusional thought I had. Plot twist, it does not work like that.
Good.
So it's been ups and downs. It's been like, you don't know until you know. There's so much preparation that you can do in going into it, which again is not really like my MO as a person. I'm more like, I learned through osmosis. I need to fly by the seat of my pants. I just need to like go out and do it. And so you do that and you learn through your mistakes. Like my payment processor didn't work for like a month, and I was having people like Venmo me, and then I got like banned from Venmo, and like it's just me in my living room being like, you can do this, like figure it out. And so, yeah, it hasn't been like this glamorous, super lucrative lifestyle. I still keep my full-time job, but I'm grateful that I've always been in a position that I can like pursue it out of passion and not like desperation of like, oh, if I don't sell enough this month, I'm not going to make rent, which is a lot more things to manage with my time, which adds to the like non-glamorousness of entrepreneurship, but is like incredibly rewarding and feels really cool and like a sense of accomplishment when I do solve those weird little hiccups that pop up. So that's fun.
Totally. And like the nitty gritty of getting a business on the ground, there's so many entrepreneurial women who listen to this. Like, did you have a business plan? Did you just figure it out as you go? What would you maybe do differently?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was like a lot of fumbling around. I think asking for help from people that you trust along the way to just sort of bounce ideas off is really important. Like having a really supportive community is huge in this. This cannot exist in a vacuum. And I know there's a debate on that of like, you know, if you want to do something, you keep it to yourself, like grind in silence, like this weird like hustle culture that's
it's a
like
50-50 on that one for me.
It's a 50-50. And also like, I just think, you know, we're not designed to be alone. And so, you know, if you've got people that you really trust, lean into them, like lean into your community through this. And I had people in the creative side and on the business side that I got to kind of pick brains from. I wish, like looking back on everything and just in life in general, wish I had taken like accounting and like just the number side of it. I'm such a creative mind, and there's definitely like I had this envision in my head of like, okay, I need 1,000 of these things. I need 10. I'm like, I did not need to spend all that money with all that up front. Like there was definitely like calculations that could have gone better. And, you know, other than that, like I just think going through the door is so important. I think a lot of people I've seen in my life that I've been friends with or just known of like having an idea or like wanting to pursue a passion and getting so stuck in the idealization of it and not like going through the door. And it feels like a jump off a cliff. And sometimes you just have to do it. And it's not going to be perfect, and like really surrendering and making peace to that like it's going to be messy and that's okay. And to just like, you're going to regret not doing it if you have something you're really passionate about and you just decide not to because you're like, well, it's just not right. There's an unmovable goalpost with that. It's never just going to be right. You kind of just have to like jump sometimes.
Yeah, there's never the perfect time, and there's never a perfect time to tell people you're going to start something. The only thing you can do is start something and see how people react once you're already in it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think what you were saying about, you know, you hold it in and maybe don't share with anybody, like you're starting on this new venture, you're starting this new project, this new brand, whatnot. I think keeping it a secret, for me, I've realized that is showcasing my fear of that I'm scared it's not going to be successful.
Yeah.
And if you share with the people you love and trust, I think it shows that you believe in it and you want your community to believe in you too.
Yeah.
And if they're there for you, great. And if they're not, move on.
Yeah. And also like, I think we carry this perspective of like, other people's views of us are so much harsher than they actually are. Like when I was concepting this, I made like this big announcement on social media. I took like a very Steve Jobs-esque like portrait and was like, I'm launching this skincare, and like put out this statement from this branding company that I came up with. And like, I didn't do that. Like that essentially in its own little way failed. Like, and I came out with something else. And I remember feeling so nervous of like, I've set this date for like when I want to launch these joints and like, how do I create this? And like, nobody really cares.
No.
Like we come up with this whole thing. And I think it's like, you know, perpetuated by social media that you're like on this really big billboard all the time. And like everyone's paying attention and judging. And like the reality is they're not.
And no one cares about you but you.
Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
You know, like as much as my ego hates to hear that, I'm like, you mean the world doesn't revolve around me?
I'm not special?
Like, how dare you? But like you know, nobody's ever as harsh as we think they are or as judgmental as we think they are. And to live your life in a place of like worrying about what they think, it sounds so cliche, like don't worry about what other people think, but like you really can't let that dictate the decisions that you make.
Yeah, that's the number one thing to hold people back. And I think also, you know, we talk a lot about social media on the show too. That is what holds people back from posting things. Is they're scared of the cringe. They're scared of the reaction people are going to give. And it's like, you're not even going to hear it, maybe. Yeah. So like, just give it a go.
Just give it a go. And it doesn't even matter. Like, so what if somebody like, you know, like I'm sure my Instagram and all kinds of stuff has been screenshotted and sent and said like whatever, but like I'm having a great time. So yeah. Not my monkey's not my circus, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, she's a TikTok girl.
Sounds like a personal problem over there, you know? But I get it. And that's not to like invalidate or discredit people's fears because it is such a weird thing. Like, I think especially with youth today, I can't imagine being in high school and thinking about posting my prom pictures on Instagram. I know. With like the ability to like edit and Facetune things. Like I don't even have a frontal cortex at that point. And you want to give me the ability to change my body at the age of like, I can't even imagine. That's got to be so hard. And none of this is to discredit people's fear with any of that, but more of just like an encouraging to say, fuck it, we ball and do what makes you happy, you know?
100%. So you're sitting with Peach Honey in COVID, and I think I heard you talk about you had this like all-nighter where you had to like roll all 3 joints, and like I was like, I would have liked to see that on social media too, for like all 3. Like, what was the clip that blew up?
Yeah, so I had this TikTok where I responded to some Trump supporter. I've been a little more controversial from time to time, however you want to say it, of just sort of trolling him and telling him to smoke peach honey because it would chill him out a bit, which is not wrong.
No, we're not wrong.
It was a valuable business proposition for the man. And people really popped off about it, which was amazing. I got like 75 orders, which was a huge deal. But I didn't have any of the automatic machinery that I do now that luckily that TikTok afforded me. So thank you for that, sir. So I have my joints come as like little cones. So you just stuff them with weed. I'm slowly developing carpal tunnel, I'm sure, from this experience. But yeah, like pulled a whole all-nighter to fill everything, and like I'm a zombie by the end of it. But it was one of those experiences that felt so rewarding at the end. And you know, I there's parts of me that I think, that fear of like, well, people aren't going to think I'm legit enough if I show them that it's just me watching murder documentaries, being like, okay, that's for you, like just like folding all these little joints. Like I'm like, you want to be perceived as like this very serious business lady, and that you've got it all together, but
it's not so picture perfect. It's not so glamorous. And I actually love that TikTok, we're just talking about the darkness of social media, is also like, it's great. Like that was a funny response. People really related to it, and it did something great for your business as well. I also want to talk a little bit about you on TikTok. I think you like gently drop your brand in so like casually. Is that on purpose or just by chance?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. Like it definitely feels like a bit of a marketing strategy to be able to put it in that's not like a, hey guys, come smoke peach honey at 1-800-peachhoney.com. Like it feels like a little bit like a fun thing. And also being that it's a CBD joint brand, I can't make little aesthetic videos. TikTok will take it down instantly.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So
I didn't think about that.
The way that I can market this looks different than somebody else might with a different product or service-based business. And it also, will feel the most authentic to me to go, I wouldn't say I'm like the influencer that's like, here's my day-to-day life, but I'm pretty transparent about who I am and what I do and my anxieties and all of that. And so, naturally it just sort of like, weaves into my videos here and there.
Right. But it's also pretty authentic to you from what I'm getting. Like the branding looks like what you show up like on TikTok. Like it all is very linked. Did that inspiration for how the branding would come from like you, or did you have an idea of what you thought it was going to look like going into it?
Yeah. So a little bit of both. I mean, I definitely knew a general vibe I wanted to embody. I worked with this branding company that designed a lot of the work for what would have been the skincare company that I sort of then got to interpret. But I think when you're defining your brand and defining the look of it, it's a lot of just figuring out what you don't want. And so, when you know it's wrong, then when you know it's like absolutely right. Because I remember designing the boxes as they are today. And interestingly enough, my brand is like very neutrally toned, but I wanted to create this like sort of nostalgic, like kind of 70s, 80s, like I would describe like Palm Springs, Playboy Bunny, kind of esque thing, just like a general vibe here. And you sort of start with this cloud and then you start kind of like weaving it in. And I would finalize things, and then I would like wake up in the middle of the night and be like, no, it all has to be bright orange. We have to scrap this. We need to do something different. And so it's a lot of like trial and error in that sense. But it's interesting that it's such a neutral brand. Like, because if you come into my home, every room is a different color. I'm like very maximalist. And this is sort of like the opposite of all of that, but still feels very much in line with me. I think there's something really classic about it. And I also think a lot of stuff in the CBD and weed space as a whole is like a really male-dominated look. And it's a lot of like...
Or aggressive.
Yeah, there's like a lot of aggression and harshness and like lions sometimes. I don't know. Like, it's just like really weird. And I wanted there to be like a delicateness with it and like a breath of femininity in the space. And so that's kind of what I wanted to like embody with it. And then I thought, well, I can't make it pink, or else no guy's ever going to buy it. So that's why I went neutral.
But we love neutral. We love a neutral girly.
Yeah, and we'll sprinkle in a little girly pop here and there. So, you know, it's been fun to kind of work with that palette when it's a little different than my normal day-to-day.
Totally. So you're balancing like a ton of different things. I feel like the marketing, TikTok, you said you have another full-time job. Like, how do you keep yourself like straight?
Great question. Sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
But I have a whole lot of yayas in me. I've got a whole lot of excitement. And prior to me joining the world of corporate again, which was a recent thing in the last 3 months, which I'm like, I guess this is what we're doing. Health insurance is nice. I was like just fully freelancing before. I was apartment leasing and running social media for different companies and doing interior design projects, which was like amazing and like really great during COVID. Because
there's so much fun in that.
So much fun.
But it gets tiring.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. And what I found actually the most exhausting is when it gets slow. Yeah. Because when I'm busy, I can prioritize, I can time manage. And the days that it's like, oh, I don't have a project for a week. I'm like, okay, I don't know where my next check's coming from. And I don't know what to do with my days. And I'm trying to like spin the wheel on different things with Peach Honey or like this. Like it's almost hard when you don't have a built schedule because then you don't know when to turn it off.
Yeah, that's actually when I find myself being the most depressed.
Yes.
Because I'm like, I don't actually know what to do with myself.
I don't know what to do with myself. And it's really hard. And then you think that you're failing in some way because I'm not busy. And like I'm like, well, I can take a day off. And then I'm like, how can I be more productive about relaxing?
Yes.
And it's not healthy, you know? And I'm always kind of like, I was always kind of like lightly on edge of like, okay, I've always got to be working. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, and then the economy took a shift in the last 8 months.
Get outside.
Yeah. Shit got weird out there. Yeah. And so obviously like the freelance projects that I were getting weren't coming in as frequently. And, you know, girls got to eat, girls got to pay her rent. I'm apparently the only one paying my bills, which is rude. Yeah. I'm tired of this, Grandpa. I don't want to do it anymore, but like we will prevail. We will make it. And so when I got a phone call to kind of jump back into the world of corporate with some people that I used to work with in my previous life, I went, okay, you know, why not? So that was another shift in like trying to keep it straight and like trying to balance it again of like, the first couple of weeks, I was like, you guys, it's 2. We've already been here all day. We don't go home yet. Like, how do you do
It's getting
this?
dark at 4.
Yeah, I'm exhausted. Like, what do you mean we don't get into the fetal position at one point? Like, I used to just do that. Yeah. And so I'm sort of readapting my schedule in that and like trying to come home and still have energy to like dedicate to Peach Honey and everything. But I'm getting better at it. And I'm being more forgiving with myself in that you know, I think when you're trying to do things like entrepreneurship and freelance life, you can just be so critical of yourself because you're just working alone all day. And it doesn't matter how much you did. Nobody's there to recognize that. And there's always something more to do.
Well, I started to get, because I lived the freelance life.
Yeah.
I started to get really insecure because my friends would be like, how can you go to Disney on a Wednesday? And I'd be like, well, I don't work all the time.
Hi, I'm the president of the company.
Right.
I can literally do whatever I want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like, you're kind of like, I start to feel bad about it or something. But like, I'm actually like, I'm working 5 different jobs, just not all at the same time. And but it's like a weird balance of handling the freelance life. And I think it's so glamorized and yet not as realistically as stable as it looks on
It's hard
Instagram.
to maintain.
Yeah.
And also, like, I wasn't ever taught to, like, how to manage money. Like, I don't know, like, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, I'll be very transparent about that. I think money's, like, a weird taboo thing. And, like, you know, I'm not good at it.
Oh,
like,
I'm horrible. I'm actually significantly very bad. Yeah. And my parents are very good. So it's not even a genetic, like, thing.
Oh, my God, no. I wish. My mom's good at it. But, yeah, I get money and it, like, burns a hole in my pocket.
I'm like,
it's all in my closet, which I'm not mad at. But I also...
You don't mean Amazon returns his money... I got paid, right?
Girl math.
Yeah, girl math.
So I definitely think, you know, I would like to see myself back on more of a freelance world where I don't take any money from Peach Honey. I keep everything in the business. I would like that to change at some point. I would like this to be, I feel good about it. Yeah. I do. I feel like I've gotten my energy towards it. And, you know, the corporate life is fine. I like doing my own thing, girl.
Yeah.
I don't work. Well, I'm like, what do you mean I have to tell you what I'm doing all day? Which is a very valid ask of them. But I'm like,
But it feels invasive.
I'm like, leave me alone. I'm doing it. Okay. So yeah, it's definitely interesting, but I try to take time to like appreciate my work ethic because I know that I have a good one and I want to like celebrate that about myself and be easy on myself in the process, you know, and not try to burn out too much.
Yeah, that's another interesting thing. How do you keep yourself from burning out when all these wheels are turning?
Yeah, I think really prioritizing a self-care routine, which sounds so cliche, but it's not just
But it's real.
It's real, and it's not like coming home and making sure you put on your face creams. It's like,
No.
I need to make sure that I'm working out every day because if I'm not working out, I'm feeling crazy. And like I've started to introduce acupuncture into my life.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, as a way to like help mitigate anxieties and my hormone levels. I got off birth control this year, which was like a whoa kind of moment. Yeah, girl, it was crazy. Meditating is a big part of my practice now, and therapy weekly. Like,
Amen.
Yeah, and self-care is like spending time with your community and like being around people you love and like traveling when you can and like incorporating things in your life that are also playful and fun and make you feel good because it doesn't have to all be work. And it's hard to see out of that sometimes. Like I think a lot of people, especially in entrepreneurship, are just like, well, I have to see this through, and that becomes like a lot of sacrifice. And I think sometimes the imbalance can do great harm to like your mental health and your relationships. And I don't ever want to lose sight of that.
Yeah, I also find when you hit burnout, you actually start becoming destructive to the thing, the passion, the career, whatever, because you're not giving good quality work. I think you're giving like strained, I call it like phone level bad, like red battery level work. And like the phone's not operating as good as it could. So like this would be better if you just rested and did it tomorrow instead.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I couldn't agree with that more.
You mentioned working out and like health. I know that you don't drink and you haven't drank for like 5 years. Yeah. I know a lot of people in this day and age are super sober curious. Yeah. Like, can you tell me about like how you made that shift and like how it's affected you and what your advice would be for somebody who's curious about sobriety?
Yeah. I mean, I think the number one thing when you're exploring the world of sobriety is to release any sort of shame around it. I think there's so much shame around like this idea of sobriety and then it needs to be this structured thing. And there's no judgment on what's right for you. For me, I wasn't the type of alcoholic that needed a drink every time I came home, but I was the type of alcoholic that if I went out, I didn't know when to stop. And I just always attributed that to like, well, I'm just having fun. Mm-hmm. Like I'm just a girl. I'm literally just a girl having fun. And
live in
like,
LA.
Yeah,
it's a high life.
Yeah, like I'm partying and it's fine. And it wasn't fine a lot of the times. And maybe my level of what's not fine is okay for others. Like there's no one set and rule for it. And I sort of had an experience on a trip where I flipped that switch. I was like, I'm going to party. I got really drunk. I don't know how I got back to my hotel. Like, thank God I was okay. I'm convinced my grandma Margaret got me back, my angel. And it wasn't like I woke up the next morning and was like, that's it. I've sworn it away. Like, I'm done. But I had been wrestling with this like voice in the back of my head that had been telling me not to drink for like a very long time. And I kept trying to argue with it that I had it under control. And it became this very like emotional decision. And then I had left a boxing class one night at a gym that I love and have been at for many, many years. And I was just sort of dropping in at the time. And I left going, oh my God, like, I wish I could afford that membership again. And I recognized that the monthly membership fee was what I spent on an evening and booze easily. And that was it. Like the second it was a financial, like logical thing that I couldn't argue. Like there was nothing to like outsmart in that.
Yeah.
That was it. Like I was like, oh, money, math, that's math I can't understand. And that was it. It was like this beam of consciousness moment and I was done with it. And I haven't ever missed it. I don't ever want to be drunk again. Like that's just not my thing. But I have within like the last year, the only thing I ever missed was like a really dry glass of red wine that just like sucks all the moisture out of your mouth when you eat some Italian food. It's the only thing I ever missed. And so I've let myself on like special occasions here and there, like have a little glass of red wine and I can't even finish a glass, but I love that for me. And there was a moment of shame of it in the beginning where I was like, no, like I tell people I don't drink. Like what are they going to think of me? And it's like, okay, it's fine. I know that this works for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not bad. I haven't done something bad. And you know, that's what I found that was safe in it. And so I think anybody who is like trying to approach that lifestyle of like assessing of like, do I really need this? Like, to recognize that there's no rules with it and you just have to find what feels right and safe to you. I can say from experience that people are like really respectful when you're just like, I just don't drink.
Yeah.
And people are like, cool. You know, and instead of like in the past, I'd be like, well, I'm not drinking this month. They'd be like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
You know, just have a shot, which is like so peer pressury. But yeah, I think that, you know, just like kind of honoring what makes the most sense for you and not feeling like there's one right way to do it. Like some people I know went through AA and that really
Mm-hmm.
worked for them. It was not a program that spoke to me. And like, that's okay,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, I think I think with Peach Honey too, also like having something that I sort of rounded the edges with helped a lot with that. Cause there are moments where I would go out and feel like left out a little
Yeah.
bit. Like people have reached this state of consciousness around me and I am not with it,
No.
you know? And so a way to feel like I'm still kind of like participating and having an experience was really, really helpful.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about it's not like a one size fits all. I think
Yeah.
that's true with like a lot of self-help too. Cause like I used to hear this all the time, like, you're so stressed, you should meditate. I'm like, that is like the worst thing to say to somebody who is stressed out. Like you're telling me like, go meditate. Like, I don't understand it. I don't get what you're saying. Also, I feel like you're just saying like, you're a really stressed person. You should calm down. And like, it was equivalent to like, fuck off to me.
Yeah.
And so I don't meditate really. I tried, but like I found like cleaning and reorganizing the apartment is
Great.
that's totally fine. And I love what you're saying with like, it can be with something as extreme as sobriety. Like there is no one way to get there. There's no rules.
Yeah.
Do it at your own pace, your own way.
Yeah. I think the questions you ask yourself along the way is like, is what I'm doing harmful to myself or others? You know, because there's things you're like, oh, I don't drink anymore, but like I became a sex addict or something. It's like, hey man, it's just kind of trading the shoe. But like, yeah, I think you have to find the practice that works for you. Like meditation doesn't work for you. It works for some other people.
Yeah.
And like organizing and cleaning works for you. Like, great. You know, to think that there's like an answer that we're all supposed to be abiding by is crazy loco bananas to me.
Right. Like we're not all the same. And
Yeah.
like we've been told like your whole life, like you're so special. Why do we assume that the same thing that works for person A works for you? Like
Yeah.
it shouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly.
So I wanted to ask you, you've been pretty open on social media about your anxiety. You touched on it a little. How have you stepped into therapy and what do you think has helped you face living with anxiety?
Yeah, I think like radical honesty and acceptance with it has been huge. And that was a new one within this last summer where I kind of had another big wave of like anxiety and depression and heartbreak and like a really challenging time in my life where I had to look at a lot of my anxieties that have shown up in relationships and in different parts of my life in a new light. Like being really honest with myself about what's happening and not trying to like, you know, psychoanalyze like weird situational stuff, like really come to the root of things in therapy, and also just being like so much more gracious with myself and all of it. I think at a younger age, I had to be like incredibly hard on myself as like a way of survival because nobody else was really looking out for me. And it kept me alive. And I have a lot of respect for that. But there is a lot of like fear-based reactions that are still really ingrained in me that I have to not fight. Like there's this kind of proverb about like anxieties being like these demons and you keep trying to like shoo them out of your house and fight you and all these things. And you just have to sort of invite them in and go, all right, you're here, you know, like that's fine. And to just sort of make space. And I think a lot of my anxiety over the years has shown up with a lot of like clenching and resistance and fear and like get out and there's something wrong with me. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with me. There's something that like my body's trying to tell me to keep me safe. Like, how can I make this person feel safe right now? That like, what is she asking for me? And it's all very visual for me. There's like, you know, like the version of me that's like very sad and like holding the door open and like hoping that I'm like doing something right. And like all, and it's like, okay, she really just needs like a hug. And like, how can I give her the safety that she's craving? And not feel so fearful of myself, you know? And so I think Tara Brach has been a big, spiritual teacher for me over the last year of it, her whole thing is radical acceptance, and to just like kind of investigate and go, okay, this is okay. And it just sort of allows you to breathe a little bit easier and like make room for things. Cause I think, especially like, and to kind of bring it back to the whole social media and the whole bit, it's like toxic positivity is so prevalent. And the second something negative starts to show up, like even if I just feel a little bit tired, I'm like, I turn into a toddler. I'm like, something's wrong. And I'm, who am I mad at? And I'm like, just need a nap, you know? And like the anxiety shows up and it's like, oh, okay, I'm just feeling like a little bit fearful of rejection right now. Or I'm just feeling a little nervous about this. Like, how can I investigate, come to the root of that and make space and like, and offer surrendering and grace to it? Has really been, you know, because the more you clench and resist, it's like, woo, spooky.
Yeah,
So
that's not acceptance. That's like pushing away. And I think that we hear so much with mental health, and this is really the idea I had with my own anxiety was like, I have to fix this.
Yes.
Not like I have to learn to live with it. And like, there's some great positive things that have come out of my anxiety. I am so freaking productive when I want to be.
Sure.
And it's I love what you said about, you know, inviting them in because like, you can't, it's going to be a part of you. You can do all the things left, right, up and down, but like, you're always going to remember what it was like. So I think the body, have you read The Body Keeps the Score?
Weirdly enough, that is one that I have not.
I think you'd really like it.
Yeah. It's a big one.
Yeah. You like, even if you aren't in the same like anxiety attachment style or whatever at the same time, like you'll still remember that even if it's years later and you're different. And I think that if you invite it in instead of saying, I'm going to fix that, will really start to like counteract that.
Totally. It's my anxiety is a control freak.
Yeah, me too.
And it's like, I've got to solve this. I've got to fix it. And the body keeps score. This like investigating the wound, this coming to the root of it is like, oh, I had to do that at a young age to feel safe.
Right.
And I had to do that to make sure that I like, you know, achieved love from a parent or something like that. Like I had to be in control. And when I lose sight of that, all the alarms go off. Yeah. And there, all I have to do is release and care for myself in those moments. But the idea of fixing it and like, I can get in control of this and I will know all of the information and I will steer this narrative in a way that keeps me safe. It is insanity and it is impossible. But try telling that to your anxious mind when you're like, hey girl, just chill. And they're like, no. I'm on a mission. Right. I'm going to solve this.
It must be solved.
Math equations flying.
You speak about mental health like really well. Like
Thank you.
You're funny with it, but it seems very authentic and whatnot. Like how do you think you got so comfortable with it?
In therapy since I was like 16, I think. Yeah. I don't know. I've never shied away from it, I guess, is I've had a lot of like really extreme experiences in my mental health and episodes. And I think now coming into my 30s, which feels like a crazy thing to say, really like honoring the spectrum that is all of it and inviting it in and not shying away from it and like going into the darkness with courage. And I think when you can like go into it with like, I'm going to bring the light. This isn't who I am. Like, this is a piece of me that I'm experiencing right now. And what does this have to teach me? And I think anytime I've gone to the darkness, I've always come out of it on the other side going, I'm so grateful I walked through that fire because I've evolved into this new version of me. And I'm wearing this scar as this like new badge of honor of like, look at what I've overcome. And I think really too this last year, like recognizing and honoring the spectrum that like, yes, I feel these like depths that like come with suicidal thoughts and come with like the most fear I've ever felt and thinking that the world is going to end. But it also allows me to feel like these highs of joy that I don't know if everybody in the world gets to experience. And like this like depth of love that I am so proud of myself for holding, even when I've felt the pain in the same place, you know? So there's just been a lot of gratitude for all of it, which I think dissolves the shame and allows me to just be really open about it, which I hope, maybe resonates with people in some ways to make them feel a little bit safe, like just that you're not alone and like, you know, the scaries of it all, the real spooky scaries of it all. Like you're so not alone in it. And encourages people to kind of like explore their mental health journey. Cause I think the fear and the resistance sometimes will block you away from it.
Yeah, and I love what you say about like the depth and the range. You can feel. I think that makes you live a full life because you've experienced the whole range. And yeah, you don't know if everyone's gonna feel those at the same, but like you did.
Yeah.
And that's your life.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I'm really grateful for it. I mean, there's moments where like I'll go through a heartbreak or a really challenging time where I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Like this again, like why did I do this to myself? You know, but like you come out on the other side and I'm so grateful that I felt all of it.
Yeah.
You know, because it's so much better than just like staying in the middle and never having taken the jump of it all.
Yeah. Time
you know?
really, I think time is like the best gift when it comes to processing things.
Yeah.
I'm huge on time. I'm like, it's gonna suck now.
Yeah.
Because like whenever I've gone through something that's just like, I'm like, okay, time is really gonna help.
Yeah.
Like I know that's like so cliche and I hate when people say it to you, but you're like, it really, I'm like,
oh yeah, no, that was like
all.
the biggest coacher to myself this year. I'm like, I know it's gonna get better. Like I know, and in this moment it feels like this hour of pain is never going to end. And then all of a sudden you're on the other side and you're like, wow, that was just such a silly little blip on the radar.
Yeah.
Look at me, I'm fine now. That's
It's
crazy.
like literally a dot on the timeline.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm grateful for it all. Yeah.
Speaking of dots on the timeline in your journey.
Sure.
We have both moved from New Mexico to Los Angeles.
Ew.
Yeah, literally. I say this with a lot of love.
Yeah.
But I say a JV town to an extremely NFL town.
Absolutely.
It's a big journey.
Yeah.
So you moved here at
20. I was 20 years old. Yeah.
You just packed up the suitcases and headed to LA and it all worked out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was perfect. It was literally perfect. And nothing could have gone wrong. Yeah. I put like 36 Forever 21 crop tops into a little pink suitcase.
From Coronado Mall.
Yeah.
Yes.
Classic. We love it there.
It actually is a really good Forever 21.
It's a great Forever 21. It's huge in there.
It's huge and no one actually buys the stuff that I think is actually really cute. Because different tastes.
Different taste. Different one. I definitely just really went for it. And it's one of those moments of gratitude for the maybe slightly dumber but really fearless version of myself who made a lot of mistakes around the way.
Ignorance is bliss.
Truly.
I love an ignorant girly.
Truly. I think it's so important for like anybody in their early 20s to just say, fuck it, we ball. And like move, do something crazy. Like I was thinking about this the other day where I'm like, you know, I'm 31 now and like there was a part of me that just wanted to like go out and do something stupid. And I'm like, I can't really do that as much anymore because I know too much. I've seen behind the curtain of Oz, you know, but when I'm 20 years old, I don't know anything.
No, and you know what? Now I'm like right on the cusp of that. And I'm like, sometimes I have to remind myself, I'm like, just pretend you're that ignorant.
Yeah.
But I actually know and I'm freaking out inside, but I'm just pretend.
No, you've got plenty more weekends of this. And I literally had this other day, I was like, God, I wish I did more stupid shit. You know what I mean? Which was not always the case for a while. So yeah, like I just kind of packed up my life and went for it. And it was like I lived in San Francisco for a minute. I was living above an after hours nightclub.
The dream.
Just like I was living off of like muscle milk and pizza slices. I had no money. I had nothing to my name, but like a bad Coach wallet, I'm sure. And you know, like but none of it mattered. I was so like, yeah, like I'll do that. I'll sleep on a couch for a week. I'll stay in the shared 1-bedroom apartment. Like I'm going to get a job and I'm going to figure it out. I had no financial support from anybody. And I just kind of went for it. And it was really scary. And it took me a long time to come out of survival mode. Like I was really recognizing, really just the other day with my therapist, shout out Megan, love her so much, how much of my early 20s was just like white knuckling it. Like, okay, I have to make enough money to make this. And I have to do this, like constantly putting through the logistics of like how to stay alive. And really getting like a bit of brevity in my like mid 20s and tapering off and like getting to make decisions out of like what I want to do with my life, not just like how am I going to stay alive. But I'm grateful. I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like it was crazy. And I cannot believe it all worked. Like I can't believe I'm alive sometimes.
I'm like I made it.
How did I die out there? But it was a whirlwind. Yeah, because like you said, Albuquerque is like
not easy.
Small town vibes.
Yeah,
and I have such a deep love for the desert magic, and I wish my blood was just green chili. Like I am a desert lizard at heart, and I always will be. But I'm so glad that I started a new journey, and at a time where I could be pretty, I was just kind of gooey and rubbery and like, whatever, you know, we're just going to go for it. I'm not going to like think about it too much. And it was cuckoo nanners.
Did the scene like of LA, I put
yeah.
in air quotes, like ever like intimidate you or shock you, or how did you manage that? Because I feel like a lot of people listen to this podcast who are thinking about moving to LA or like moved here, and they're like so like absorbed by, you know, everyone has 100K followers and everyone's an influencer, everyone's an actor, everyone's gorgeous, everyone's skinny. Like, how did you handle all that?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think I got kind of thrown into it right when I first moved here. This girl I kind of moved here with was like, you know, industry adjacent life, and we're going to parties, and I didn't know anything.
Ignorance is bliss.
I didn't know that like the clubs we were at or like the people we were around, like I didn't really get any of it. And I kind of started dating this guy, and that was sort of in the world. That's a whole nother tangent. And it's like when I left it, that it affected me the most because I like saw from the outside. And at the time when I was really young, because it didn't work out for me, or like I didn't like stay in it, I viewed it as some sort of like failure of myself, that like I wasn't like popping enough for it, you know, like which sounds so stupid because it's not real. Like like the club promoters are not your friends. Right. And the models are only nice to you if they think you're famous.
Care. Yeah.
No, and it's like, but it's like this like weird like craving of validation. Yes. Like, please think I'm enough. Please think I'm good enough.
Everybody who moves here thinks they're special, and they want the world to think they're also special. Yeah. And like, we're all human. Like, we all love that, you know, hit me with that follow, see that count go up. Like, we're human. We see it and it does something to us. Yeah. But like, that's the insecurity. Everybody moves to here in LA because everybody thinks they're going to be someone or be the it girl.
Yeah. I mean, and that was like the biggest lesson that I learned. I remember it so vividly, like being so fixated on like, well, I have to like achieve it. Like I really thought like dating this guy and being in this world and like, and like if I reached enough followers and like, and I'm explaining this to my friend and he just kind of looks at me and goes, Paizley, there's no it. Yeah. And I was like, what? And it was like this whole like whoosh moment of like, oh my God, like I've just constructed this idea of like a life I'm supposed to live and a person I'm supposed to be. And I don't know what it really means. And nowhere in that is like a version of my most authentic self. Nowhere in that is like genuine connection and community. It was just like, you know, just be the face of it, like be famous enough, be like worthy enough of like some guy with money or like what, like it was all so stupid, but like you get a glimpse of it. And like, I remember the guy I dated, his friends like making fun of me that my shoes were like from Aldo and like not designer. And I was like, I literally can't afford that. That's crazy that you would do that. Like I'm 20 years old, but like I don't know. It was just it's also heartless now when I look back on it. Like there's no love in that world.
I remember the time some big time agent, assistant, but he was an agent.
Sure. Yeah.
Told me that the only girls in LA that were attractive had the fake boob look. And I was like, I think I'm out here. I can't wrap my head around.
No, like, and what's crazy, it's like, it's just his lens. Yeah. And people that start to find themselves in some sort of position of power, whatever world they're in, they think that they're so right. And I think specifically for young women, we become such victims of that. Like you're a table accessory. You're whatever is like valid enough to them. And if you don't fit that mold, you have to like suffer the insecurity of it all. And it's just not fun. All of that to say, I'm grateful I'm not in that world. And it breaks my heart to see women that got stuck in it and kind of, for lack of a better term, chewed up and spit out by it, because it is vicious and it is cyclical and it will churn you out. And because women are just purely objects in it. Yeah. And you get sucked into it and you think that that's the existence and you place your whole self-worth in it. And it's like, I've gone through different iterations of it over the years, and there's the moments of insecurity I see of myself in my younger 20s of like looking at the girls on Instagram that have all the followers and are so beautiful and like wanting to be like them and being where I'm at now and looking back at them and going, oh, thank God I didn't do all that, because that doesn't sound fun. No. And like, where's the love in all of it?
Well, and what did you have to give up to be there? Yeah. Like if you now, maybe not at like 21, told me like, I had the choice of doing that or like hanging out with my parents. Like,
Yeah.
It's just, you start to notice what you're giving up to be in those positions. And it's
totally.
But at the same time, like, I feel like, yeah, like everyone kind of goes through it here.
Yeah. It's
part of the training wheels.
I really think there's like this weird energy that you like move to LA with where like they know you're green and you're just sort of glowing and like you're just going to get swept up in some crazy stuff.
Favorite.
Yeah. That they're just like, oh, good. She's naive. Grab her. You know, where you're like, whatever.
It's like a pterodactyl literally comes down and snatches them. Yep. They see right through it.
Yeah. I remember the first week I was here, I was still planning on living in San Francisco. And the people that I was with, I got invited to Paris Hilton's 4th of July party.
I would have passed away.
Greatest moment of my life. Again, Albuquerque girl. Don't know anything yet, how anything works. And in my head, you know, when you go out in Albuquerque, you pregame. So I'm like, we're going to stop at this gas station to meet with everyone before. I'm going to get a Four Loko.
I knew you were going to say a Four Loko.
I shit you not. I get a Four Loko. Again, don't know anything. Get to the party. I'm like, well, we just go in. And the people that I'm with, I'm like, no, we're not on the list. But like,
we're going to get in.
You're a cute girl. Just go talk to him. You can get in. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, none of this occurred to me. I'm coming from just trying to get to the front of the line at Monta Vista in Albuquerque with my fake ID. So I'm like, okay. And so I'm just going and talking to him. And I'm like, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm here. And they're like, it's just you. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay. And I walk in with this party with my Four Loko, and I very quickly look around and go, oh no. Like, I look crazy with this. And I go and sit on this like large, like white leather, like ottoman, like on the beach in Malibu. And I just sort of like slide this Four Loko down by the side and was like, okay, here we go, you know? But that whole party was just like this little green energy where I'm just partying, having the best time, and the vultures are swooping in. And this is so embarrassing, but I just think it's like the funniest thing I've ever done. I had like befriended this girl on the beach. She's from Texas. So we're like talking about, you know, whatever.
Southwest girly.
We're all drunk. And before the fireworks show starts in Malibu, she's inside with like her boyfriend. And she just looks at me with this blue liquid in this cups. And she's like, do you want some? And I was like, yeah. And so I take a sip of God knows what. And we all go out on the beach. And I'm just yelling during the fireworks show. Oh my God. Oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I'm losing my mind. And the girl I'm with finally goes, like, what are you on? Like, what's your deal? And I was like, I've never seen fireworks before. And she goes, you've never seen fireworks before? And then I kind of like snap out of it and I go, well, not like this. Swear to God. Blue Fiesta Park looks a lot different. Blue Fiesta Park's a bit of a different vibe than Malibu Beach. Like, I'm just high as hell. And the guy that I started dating shortly after was there. Apparently, I was like grabbing his butt on the beach. Zero recollection of this experience. No idea whatsoever that this happened. But like, it was just one of those moments now that like, you know, like the next morning I'm kind of anxiety. Like a year later, I'm like, God, I can't believe I did that. And now I'm like, I wish I would have done more dumb shit. That was so funny. Like, you go, Paige. It was just, I'm just screaming on the beach and people are noticing, you know? Whatever. I had a great time.
And you own your own brand now and you're just fine.
And I'm just, look, turns out I'm all right. I turned out okay.
Just fine.
Yeah, I'm okay. So, yeah, it's a good time.
You're such a good storyteller.
Thank you.
And you are also hold on, I'm still recovering.
It's really good.
Whew.
Yeah.
You're a really good storyteller.
Thank you.
And you are also like a TikTok, like one shot wonder. Like you record these crazy stories. Like you literally just told us in one take. Like how have you just like been able to post on TikTok, grow on TikTok? And what's your advice for getting into TikTok?
I think this is the most fuck it we ball platform. I'm sorry I keep saying that, but it's like I love the anonymity of TikTok, especially in the beginning. Like I was on it, you know, pre-COVID, where I'm like, this is Vine part 2 for me, which was a hyperfixation of mine when I moved to LA.
You don't strike me as a Vine girly.
Oh my God, I loved Vine.
Wow.
I would like corner people at parties and be like, have you seen this Vine? And they were like, dear God, she's doing it again. Like, make her stop. I loved Vine. So this felt like Vine part 2. And I just loved, like, Instagram was like, oh, all the people I went to high school with are following me, blah, blah, blah. Like, I just threw it out into the ether and didn't think about it. And so I think that was really fun. I don't think there's this like veil of perfectionism with TikTok. I'm not trying to edit anything. And, you know, there's a side of TikTok, like I definitely don't I can't do a get ready with me. I'm too old for that. And I don't know how to make transitions. And but I enjoy making content. I enjoy doing bits. I like telling stories. And I like being funny. It's like a fun thing for me to do. And I like that about myself. And so it's just kind of like a throw it out there and see what sticks kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And there's certain ones where like I can feel it come and I was like, this is going to hit. Like, this is going to be great. And if I start to record one and I have to keep doing it over and over again, I'm like, okay, just let it go. It doesn't feel fun for me anymore. But yeah, I think the advice on TikTok is to just do whatever is the most authentic to you. I think on any social media, when you try to like fit a formula, it's not going to work because it's just not who you are. Just do what feels right to you. And that's kind of what I think has always resonated the most, at least in my case.
Yeah. Paizley, looking back on this journey, moving from New Mexico to LA, being this funny girl, being on social, being a business owner, and honestly, just such a delight. Thank you. What would be your advice to women who, want to make a change in their life and start their own business?
You don't have to have it all figured out. There is no rules. That is my biggest thing. There are no rules to any of this. And, to pursue what makes you feel good. Like, I think as women, we're taught to like tone down our intuition and tone down like what our body tells us.
Or that your intuition is wrong.
Yeah, or that your intuition is wrong. Like my anxieties are constantly lying to me. Like, don't listen to that little goobler. Like really connect with your body. And like I had to get off birth control because I felt disconnected to my body. Like you will know in your soul what feels right to you. And like to keep following that thread and to not worry about what sort of like world perspective surrounds that. Like to think like, oh, well, how will this be perceived through some lens? Because you're just never going to be able to calculate all of it. And so I just think pursuing things that make you feel really good and not being fearful about doing it wrong sometimes. Like you don't have to get it right. I think women are like taught to be perfectionist and like sort of this idea of like being it too is like we have to do it all. Like I have to look beautiful and I have to be toned and I have to do this. And like I definitely, my anxiety gets caught in like the rhythm of perfectionism. And like I have to be all of these things in order to be worthy. And like it's okay for things to just sort of be ordinary sometimes or to not be at their best or to have a day where you're at 20% and to not feel shame about that and to not think that you're not deserving of success or love or reward because of that. Like we are broad spectrums of little like amazing creatures that are like capable of so much. Like my body can bring another life into this world and you're going to tell me that like I can't try to make this business. Like I can do anything.
Yeah.
I can literally do anything I want, So I think fearlessness and self-love and self-acceptance and respect for your authenticity is so important to like honor.
Paizley, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast.
Yeah, I love it here.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
So fun.
Well, you have to tell everybody where they can find you and Peach Honey.
Yeah, so Peach Honey is just at Peach Honey on Instagram, and our website is peachhoney.co. Please go shop and get Gooey.
It's not confusing.
It's not confusing. You get a box, you get Gooey, you have a good time. Couldn't encourage it more. My personal TikTok is at Paizley Laura if you want to watch me scream into the ether. That is your own choice.
Dog.
And see, Susan, I miss her. She's really cute. God, I love Susan so much. She's my assistant and she's doing great. But yeah, thank you. Like, check us out. I hope you give Peach Honey a try, whoever's listening. And I love you so much. She's so great. Beauty.
Thank you so much for listening to Confessions of a Wannabe It Girl. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the show. As always, we'll see you next Tuesday.